Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by, and welcome to the How to Take Back Your Time with Employee Self-Service webinar. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. If you would like to ask a question during the presentation, please use the chat feature located in the lower left corner of your screen. If you need to reach an operator at any time, please press *0. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded Tuesday, October 21st, 2014. I would now like to turn the conference over to Elaine Coppell. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Helene Coppell, the Product Manager for TrackSmart, and your host for today's webinar. In a bit, I'll be joined by Jamie Lazat, our resident HR consultant and expert in best practices for managing employees. When we do have our Q&A session at the end, I just want to mention if we do not get to your question, we'll try to follow up with you by email. So we'll get to as many questions as possible in the time we have. So let's go over today's agenda. So we will be covering today best practices for your business when it comes to time off, managing time off, and using TrackSmart to apply these best practices. Have a demo of TrackSmart self-service and setup, and then that Q&A. So we're going to move into the best practices. It's the most wonderful time of the year and one of the busiest for employee vacation scheduling as well as sick days with cold and flu season. But the season can be painful for employees and companies when vacations and paid time off aren't handled well. Unfortunately, we don't often realize that we've got a problem until we're right in the thick of it. You've picked a great time to learn some best practices for your business to avoid issues, and the perfect time to make sure you're all set up with your TrackSmart self-service features so it's easier for you. So with that being said, I'm kicking it over to Jamie.
Thank you, Helene, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you again for attending today's webinar. As Helene mentioned, today we're going to be talking about best practices for your business when it comes to scheduling employees' time off. Too often we find that it's not the actual time an employee takes off, but it's actually the confusion of planning time off that causes the problems for our company. So you always want to make sure to discuss your employee vacation policy during the hiring and orientation process and provide each employee with a written copy of that policy, and always make sure to get a signed acknowledgement as well. So here are a few important topics to make sure to include in your policy. How much time off is allowed, or how is your time off accrued? Is it accrued weekly, monthly? Does time off roll over? You also want to include paid or unpaid holidays, any blackout dates or deadlines your company has, and these details are very important for the employee to know and understand, especially when requesting time off, because it will help you avoid any problems or confusion later on. Make sure to also include how scheduling conflicts will be resolved, whether your company has policies based on seniority, whichever or whomever employee asked first, or even if you have a lottery system. You also want to include deadlines for submitting vacation requests, and this is very important to have in your policy because it will make your job easier as a manager, and also it gives the employees enough time to project how employees, or I should say it gives you enough time to project how employee absences might affect your production in the company, as well as delivery dates for different projects. And lastly, you also want to make sure to always constantly review, update, and redistribute your policy either annually or any time that amendments are made to it. And don't forget, each time that you do distribute an updated policy, make sure your employees acknowledge that it was received. You always want to make sure that your employees are up to date and understand that policy. All your employees should review and understand the expectations and the procedures for calling off, and TrackSmart Self-Service does this just for you. Now I'll hand it over back to Helene to briefly explain how.
Okay, so we are going to, next slide please, sorry. We'll show you exactly how to set up later in the webinar, but the point is that we recommend you really getting the employee from the start, understanding what the process is, and using TrackSmart. So have them set up in TrackSmart for day one. And when you're setting them up, here's some things you need to consider for the self-service setup. Are they paid hourly or salary? That may make the difference whether they are going to use timesheets. Does the employee supervisor manage other employees? And that'll be for supervisor settings. Can more than one employee in the same role take off on the same day? And that means you're going to want them to see the calendar when other people are off so they know not to request a certain day. And who handles the time off requests and timesheets at your business? That's something to consider when you're setting them up for TrackSmart.
The next best practice to follow is having your employees work together. So if your corporate culture allows it, have your employees work together to create a holiday or vacation schedule. Often, if employees understand which days are important to their coworkers, they'll compromise. So for example, big events like a wedding. This allows all your employees to take off the days most valuable to them while still covering important shifts. When employees have some autonomy over their time, they'll handle it with more maturity and teamwork, and this will actually make your job much easier by not having to make the more complicated decisions, especially when you have multiple employees requesting the same day and situations like that. So if you have a policy of employees who work within teams not being off on the same day, you'll definitely want to make the time off schedule available to your employees to view so they can be aware of who's already requested days off. And like Helene mentioned earlier, when they can see that calendar, they'll either know not to request that day, or they can work together to discuss amongst themselves if they need to make a change. And then again, this avoids you having to work out a conflict or rearrange things for yourself.
Right.
Next slide. You also want to always remind your employees to vacation throughout the year. Taking breaks from work is definitely good for your employees, and it's good for your company. Every quarter, you want to make sure to remind your employees that their health and satisfaction is important to you. You can do this by providing them with a copy of their vacation policy. That way, it'll remind them about the vacation, to take a vacation, and then make sure that they're aware of the policies that they need to follow when requesting any vacation time. By encouraging your employees to use their allotted vacation days steadily throughout the year, this will also neutralize the year-end rush for unused time off. Which now leads us into making sure that you plan ahead for the holiday season. Another best practice to plan is definitely planning ahead for the holiday season, or just as we mentioned in the previous slides, the year-end rush. So especially the week following Christmas. If possible, make sure your company doesn't schedule meetings, important deadlines, or company events when you know your company will be understaffed. During this time of such a holiday rush, encourage your employees to alternate holiday time vacations among themselves. For instance, have the employees communicate to each other saying, I'll take this holiday if you take this holiday, and allowing them to compromise amongst themselves, again, will help you out when making those decisions and approving or disapproving holiday requests.
I want to just jump in here with a little TrackSmart tip. You can put in a company event in your calendar that says deadline for holiday vacation requests. When you have those really rush times, you want to set up those dates, put it in the calendar, and this way your employees have a reminder when they're in there requesting their time off.
And continuing to speak about the holidays, you always want to make sure that you're fair with holiday work schedules. As we all know, some businesses, or quite a lot of businesses, remain open throughout the holidays, so we want to make sure we're fair when making the schedules around these times. All talk of paid time off, or PTO, needs to be taken with this grain of salt. Some industries like restaurants and retail, hospital and emergency personnel, news anchors, gas station attendees, and numerous others work 24/7 to ensure a smooth holiday season for the rest of us. So if your company is actually one of the businesses that does remain open for the holidays, make sure that your employees feel appreciated. and keep that holiday schedule as fair as possible. Definitely forcing employees to work during a holiday under fear of losing their jobs can not only kill morale, but obviously create a potential PR nightmare for your company, which we definitely all don't want. Instead, what you can do is offer incentives to those employees like holiday pay, offer them postponed time off, or even other perks you know that your employees would enjoy to have them volunteer to actually be on the schedule. And when an employee volunteers for a shift, he or she is actually more likely happy to be at work. And obviously this would make the holidays a little merrier for everyone.
And another TrackSmart tip, use the employee event code in the calendar to note if an employee is scheduled to work on a holiday. That'll help you remember who worked on Christmas or who worked on Thanksgiving, and so you can divide it out and have that record maybe if you're going to swap it out next year.
And lastly, when dealing with busy seasons like the holiday season, we always want to make sure that we prepare for a smaller workforce. Prepare for the absences that you have approved. So the best thing you'd want to do is distribute vacationing employees' duties among several different colleagues. This action will keep all the work of the employee on vacation evenly split so that not one unfortunate employee ends up with it all. Remember to let your employee that's going on vacation to leave all the details if the colleagues will be covering their jobs, and make sure that the employee taking the time off provides a summary of the work in progress of any of their major responsibilities, whether they're daily or weekly. Make sure they leave key contact information if there is an emergency and you have to reach them while they're on vacation, whether it's via email or cell phone. Make sure they leave any access to any related files you may need to complete any of the tasks, and of course any other pertinent data that the colleague will need to meet crucial deadlines for the employee that's on vacation. An easy way that you can help the employee that's getting ready to go on vacation do this is to provide a checklist of needed items so that the employee that's heading out on vacation will be able to focus on what they need to make sure they set up or leave behind so they don't forget anything. So quickly, let's go ahead and recap the best practices that we just discussed. First, you want to set expectations from the start. Review your vacation policy during the hiring and orientation process and provide a copy to each employee. Again, make sure to receive signed acknowledgments from each employee. Allow your employees to work together. Encourage your employees to compromise and work together to create a holiday or vacation scheduling. And remind your employees. Don't forget to remind your employees to take vacations throughout the year for their health and your company satisfaction. You can do this by distributing your vacation policy each quarter. This will also remind your employees of the vacation policy and understand how they need to request any vacation time. Make sure you're planning ahead for the holiday season. Don't schedule any meetings, important deadlines, or company events when you know you'll be understaffed, and encourage your employees to work together to alternate holiday time off. Make sure to also be fair with your holiday work schedules. Keep that holiday work schedule fair as possible and encourage your employees to volunteer to work during the holidays by offering incentives. And just remember, the span between Thanksgiving and New Year's Day means many things to many people. Religious holidays like Hanukkah and Christmas, family reunions, long distance travel, or kids' schools plays even, these are the most important events of the year for many employees and their families. So try to be sensitive and consider every vacation request with this in mind. And definitely prepare for a smaller workforce at the same time. Prepare for your absences that you have approved during the busy season and distribute the work evenly amongst the team so that not one employee gets stuck with everything. Make sure to provide a checklist for the employee going on vacation so that the team that's going to be working on their work while that employee is out, they have all the information to make sure that crucial deadlines are met. And lastly, set up your employees with self-service on TrackSmart. This will keep your company on track and help you manage their time off schedules. And now I'll hand it back to Helene so she can show you how it works.
Great. So we are going to be heading into our live demo of setup, and we'll switch to the screen where you can see where it all starts, which is in the employee profile. That's where we're going to focus. You can do an all-at-once setup for groups, but we're going to go employee by employee for setup. So you should all have at least one employee in there, and ours is a koala bear, apparently. And so where you want to go from the profile, just let me quickly say, in the Contact tab, if you want to set up your employee for self-service, the most important thing is that they have a unique email address. They cannot share email addresses. You may have learned this, but you need to have an email address for this employee so that they have a login and they can receive their login information. So let's skip down to the Permissions tab so we can get right into the screen where you set up your self-service permissions. I want to just mention briefly that certain features are not available for the Core Track plan. So if you see some disabled fields, if you have Core Track, you will not have timesheets or supervisor features. If you want to make a change, we're going to walk through how those work. So if you want to make a change later, just contact us, hit support on the TrackSmart website, and drop us a note, and we'll help you with that. So let's go in line by line. So here is where you would select the features for an employee who does not. At the top is the group for employees who don't have, who are not supervisors, or even supervisors who also are responsible for submitting their own requests through self-service. You have time off requests, timesheets, contact info, so they can update their own contact information and emergency contact information. That's really great for, for everybody to have. I think, things change and they need to, they can do it themselves, and that way, just send out a message saying it's time to update and give them a reminder. The company scheduler report, it's just a report you can print out that gives you like the full month at a view for each employee, and it does include their absence codes. The company calendar is what we've mentioned before, and that is to give them permission to see when other people, each employee can see when somebody else is off. In the supervisor, this person had to have been designated, I skipped over, but in job details, they have to be designated as a supervisor with employees reporting to them. And they can manage employee requests. They take care of the approvals or rejections, takes that off your hands as an administrator, approving timesheets, and that they can manage employee contact information. Just in case you want to have them responsible rather than the employee themselves, they can handle that for them. So you would check off the ones you want. You would hit send invitation. If this is your first time and you're not just making updates, you would hit send invitation. And the employee would receive an email. And here you can see, if you can see close enough, if your eyes are better than mine, you will see that it line lists every permission they've been given. In this example, this was a supervisor, so you'll see the supervisor permissions, but it will only give the bullet points, and it gives them the login information, where to log in at employees.tracksmart.com, and their password, which they can change on the site. Okay, so now we go over to the employee self-service site. If some of you have never had the opportunity, you're going to see what your employees see now. Okay, so those supervisors and employees have their email and password to log in, and they will log in at a dashboard. And so if they are not a supervisor, you basically will have the bottom row without that supervisor summary. They can change their password, by the way, at the top, because it's a funky password. It's not easy to remember. They can always change it that first time in. So supervisors will see their employee list of who they manage, how many time off requests are pending their approval, and how many timesheets are pending their approval. And employees they have access to their time off banks. They can see how much time off they have accrued and have remaining. Bear in mind, this is for all taken and approved time off already. It does not consider future time off in that balance, because that can always change. And then the time worked is just a summary of the current week if they have the timesheets feature and have entered any of their hours into there. Okay. let's go to the time off request. When an employee wants to go in and request time off, they go to the screen where they can submit their time off request. They would select a reason, and that reason drop-down is populated by the absence codes you have designated in your account when you set up your preferences. Sorry, my eyes are going bad. Okay, they can pick out the dates. Just bear in mind, they can set up how many hours. So if they have a half a day, they can put in 4 hours or whatever time frame they want, and then they can enter into the comments the detail. If they are doing a span and it crosses a weekend, they definitely need to make sure that they are only putting in the amount of hours, not for the, if they are not responsible for weekends, make sure if they went Friday to Monday and they don't work Saturday and Sunday, to only put the 16 hours there. But it will span your calendar for the 4 days, including the weekend. So consider whether you want to let your employees know to submit separate requests if it's a Friday and a Monday. If there is a supervisor designated for this person, that supervisor and you, the administrator, will receive the notification that they've requested this time off. And if they want to send it to anybody else, maybe they want their coworker to know that they've submitted a request for this day, they can enter it in that field, that CC email address. And by the way, if anything changes in the future, that person will also receive notification, for example, if they cancel it. So on the right here, they can see again how much time off they have left when they're putting in the request. And at the bottom, this was a newer feature, they can see the history of time off requests that they've submitted in the past, what status they're in, whether they're pending, they've been canceled, approved, declined, and how many hours that is. So they have access to that. And if they do need to cancel, they can always click on the date range. It will open the, thank you. It'll open the detail and it will let you, if it's a pending request, you will have a link that says cancel request. The employee, there it is, can cancel the request and you'll get notification. Okay. Now let's look at the calendar. Once an employee has submitted a time off request, you'll get a notification email, you and the supervisor, if the supervisor is set up. They'll get a notification email that you've got something pending your approval, and then you will go to your calendar. Let's go back to what the administrator now sees, because the supervisor has very similar view. So in your calendar, you'll see pending requests with that exclamation point, and you can even filter out the other stuff. I've got Alex with me, and Alex, you are going to uncheck those. Thank you. So here you see just the pending requests in the calendar. And if you double-click on one, you'll get the detail where you can approve. You can see if anybody else is out, it's going to show you that on the right, so you know if you have any conflicts, if there's any comments from the employee. Again, you get to see now how many hours they have available. You can add your own notes if you need to. If you need to make edits, maybe this person submitted a vacation request and somehow it went into the vacation bank, but it needs to go into PTO because that's how you do business. Feel free to edit that. You can change the bank right here in this process. Let's approve this. You also are free to decline, of course, and they will get notification. Another way you can administer your time off request, you'll see that little icon at the top of your screen and top of your calendar that shows you how many requests are pending. You can click that. And here you have a different view which shows you all your time off requests, and you can filter to see just the pending ones so you can take care of them all at once. Maybe you just designated some time. Now again, on the self-service site, your supervisors have a very similar view and they can take care of this for you. Again, the idea is taking back your time. So I really recommend letting your supervisors have those permissions to handle these requests, as long as that's okay with your business. And the employees will receive notification whether it was approved or declined. They will get notice. Let's see, where are we going now? Oh, the notification you're going to show them? You want to show them an approval? I went off script. Sorry. Okay, you've got it. So this is what an approval would look like. Okay. Most of our presentation has been about time off, but let's show you what the time sheets look like. It's a great way to keep track of your employees' time worked. And you do have a choice during your preferences when you're first setting up TrackSmart whether you want to track in-out times or worked hours. In this case, we're showing you an example where it's in-out times, and it keeps track of, it also will take all your absences and throw it in here if you designated PTO on certain days. And your employees will fill this out. They have to certify, yes, I swear this is true. They can enter any comments they have and save it, and then when they're ready at the end of the week, they would submit it, and then you would receive notice on your dashboard that you have timesheets waiting to be approved. Okay. What you can do also, if you are using these timesheets for payroll purposes, you can go to the reports section of the site. We have a timesheet summary and timesheet detail. The summary will roll up, depending on what you need, the summary will roll up all hours for the period of time you selected, and the detail will break it out by day, however you need it. And so here's what I recommend. We have export to CSV. This will let you take all your timesheet information and put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and this way you can filter or you can change headings or rearrange the data the way your payroll company needs it. This kind of gives you that flexibility. Here's all the numbers you need, and then you can do what you need that's specific to your business. Okay. Should we look at, let's look at the contact information. Okay. In case you haven't seen it, your employee, when given permission, can update their own contact information. It saves a lot of chasing if somebody moves. Oops. Sorry, we'll catch it. So you see, this is a supervisor view, so they can handle it for their employee, but if it was just an employee without supervisor permission, they would just not have the stuff on the left. They would have the body there where they can update their contact information and their emergency contact information. And you know what? I think it's a good idea to regularly send out a message to your employees and let them know, hey, it's a routine quarterly check, let's say. Please make sure your emergency contact information, all your contact and emergency contact information is up to date. Where are we now? Okay. So now as a supervisor, you can see you've got the opportunity to let your supervisors take over some of the reporting. Sorry, I'm going to switch. Here we are. So there's some reports that are available to the supervisor in case they need to report up. Rather than you do all the reporting, maybe they can email it in, whether you like PDF or CSV, but they have access to many of the reports you have, the absence detail, employee scheduler, the time off summary, and the timesheet reports. Again, let me just reiterate that those timesheets, the supervisor permissions and the timesheet features are available with FlexTrack, PowerTrack, and PowerTrack Plus. If you need to make a change to enable those permissions, drop us a line. Mention you were on the webinar, and then Alex can take care of you and give you a little deal to upgrade from CoreTrack to one of the higher level plans. Okay. Oh, and by the way, we also have the mobile app. And so here are just some screens so you can see your employees. This is specifically for employees so that they can handle things straight from outside of work. So if somebody is calling out sick, there's no excuse. They can use, if they've got a smartphone, they can download the mobile app. It's available for iPhone and Android, and they can submit a time off request straight from home and just put in a sick day. They can take care of their timesheets while they're out. If you have remote workers, this is awesome too. This will help you out. Okay. And there are, on the employee self-service site, there are links to download these apps for your employee. And the employee site is web-friendly, so they can get there from their phone too and have full functionality if they're using their phone going to employees.tracksmart.com. So I think we've covered a lot, and we can head into our Q&A, unless anybody thinks of anything I missed here. No? Okay. Let's go into our Q&A and see if we can take some questions. We got a question, do you have plans to accommodate Canadian holidays in your software? I want to say that our best features and our enhancements, the majority of them have come straight from our customers. They have gone to the community, tell us what they think we need, and the more votes and the more feedback we get on a topic, the more likely that is to be added to TrackSmart. Now, specifically Canadian, I can't say, but what I do have in the queue for consideration is the ability to customize your holidays, to add your own, or to filter on and off. And if you feel strongly about this, please click the community button on the website and jump in and let us know what you think. Whatever features you have in mind for us, please, we look for that feedback from you. Okay. I'm going to go on the fly. How do I create an event in TrackSmart? Alex, can you go to the administrator site? You all know Alex, right? From the community and the feedback and the support. He's John. Okay. We've got the screens coming up. Maybe. Sorry about that. Okay, it's really easy to create an event in TrackSmart. Earlier, I talked about a company event. So you can either double click on a day or you can click the top right icon. Okay, so boom, it opens. If you want to create a company event, you would select all employees. Reason is company event. And here is that example. You know, if you need hours in the timesheet, you can do that here, but you don't have to do that. And right in the notes, I'll use the example we talked about earlier, deadline for vacation requests for Christmas time, or whatever politically correct way you want to say it. And this will end up on the calendar for your employees. They can see it. They will see company event, but when they hover over it on the calendar, they will see your note that says this is the deadline. Oops, that feature's not showing, sorry. But anyway, that's a hover over. You'll be able to see that there. Let's do an example of just an employee event, which works almost the same way. Hit the thing at the top, or am I too late? The little icon to show you the other way to, yeah. If you click on that icon, that also will open the same window. Maybe. Oh, it's there, sorry, little delay. You would select the employee from the drop-down list. Did you select an employee? You would select an employee and then whatever reason. Of course, there are specific events. Oh, I think this is an absence. I'm sorry. Hit the drop down on the reason. Too late? Scroll down. Oh, it's not enabled in this account. Anyway, you would have a list of events like birthdays, anniversaries, and you would just select that. And if it was a birthday, you won't have the fields about the timesheets. But it's the same thing. It's the same idea. Okay. So we have another question. Why do all future requests, why don't they show up under the time off request history. They should. It's about filtering. Can you go to the time off request history? Sorry, we have a little lag, but we are catching up. Oh, you took it back? We apologize. Give us a moment. Okay. In the time off request history, you see at the top you have pending requests. Hit the drop down. So your approved request, your pending, your canceled. So even future requests will be in there on the left. You can filter by date range of upcoming. See? That one was easy. Okay, I've got a question about TrackSmart Mobile is not working. That is correct. With the new Apple, we had an iOS 8 update that took us by surprise and was not compatible with the TrackSmart app. They are working on it right now, and we hope to have it done within the next couple of weeks. But as I mentioned earlier, you can direct your employees to just navigate to the employees.tracksmart.com website. The full functionality works on their phone. They just have to use their browser on the phone. Okay. Any other easy ones? No, that's okay. Sorry. Wait, I'm okay. I'm not scared. Are there any plans to provide functionality to rename the time off banks? Again, throw that into the community. I do have this on my list. It's on my wish list too. And I do hope that we make that possible with updates in the near future. Again, the more we hear about it, the more likely it moves up in prioritization. Okay. Does the TrackSmart program work with access control cards? It does not right now, but I like that idea, so please do go to the community and post that there, and that way, you know, you can share with other TrackSmart members and see how they feel about it, or if they have any workarounds, or if, you know, they are voting with you. Okay. Any other questions? I'm trying to see if we have any other questions. And if you have, I think we are out of questions that are general. If you have a specific question, let's take it back. We're going to give you the email address. Here you go. All right. So if you have any more questions or specific to your account, something you're dealing with, we're happy to help. We are always here, available to help. Well, always here during, 8:30 to 5:30, Monday to Friday, Eastern Time. And you can just shoot us an email at support@tracksmart.zendesk.com or hit community or support from the top of the website. Those are ways to get to us as well. And I think we are ready to wrap up, and I really appreciate you for joining us today. We also want you to send feedback. Let us know if there are other specific topics you'd like us to cover and have webinars on that you need more help, you know, around TrackSmart and how-tos or best practices, and we look forward to working with you on this. So thank you again, and until next time, happy tracking!
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the webinar for today. We thank you for your participation and ask that you please disconnect your lines.